Is less really more? Well, today I intend to find out. Hey beer nerds, this is Ryan with Beer by the Numbers, and today we're going to review 4 different non-alcoholic beers and talk about the economics behind this small corner of the beer and brewing industry. So I've got 4 different beers up today. We've got Heineken 0.0, interesting they specified both digits. We've got Coors non-alcoholic, a interesting craft version called the Glutenberg, which I'm very interested to try as a craft beer nut. And then finally, we have Erdinger non-alcoholic beer as well. So let's go ahead and dive into our first beer, Heineken 0.0. And the interesting thing about this beer is it's actually one of the newest non-alcoholic offerings from one of the big brewing brands out there. So I'm kind of excited to try it, as it's been on a little bit of a growth spurt lately. So, you know, they did go ahead and kind of use the same signature green bottle and all the, you know, a lot of their similar branding in this. And, you know, just as you'd expect, it pours out as a beautiful, clear lager beer. Although I guess I can't really call it lager. The weird thing is all these kind of specify that they are malt beverages with, and apparently this one with natural flavors, but it still has the brewed in Holland seal on there. You still get the Heineken star and 1873 and that sort of thing. But they're very quick to point out that it is alcohol free. And on the back of the label it says, Heineken's unique 0.0 recipe is brewed with pure malt and special A yeast, just like the original Heineken lager beer. Brewed with pure malt for a premium taste without alcohol. Yeah, interestingly enough, this is 11.2 ounces, which I'm not sure how many ounces a standard Heineken is, but that just threw me off a little bit with the bottle size. But anyway, on the nose, to be honest, it smells a little skunky, which I know for a lot of people, a standard Heineken smells fairly skunky for a lot of tasters out there. But it's really kind of hitting me hard today. And normally I enjoy Heinekens, so I'm a little anxious to get into this one. But yeah, it's got a, you know, just a clear body, exactly what you'd expect out of a pale lager, a nice tight white head up here. Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and dive into it. So, interestingly enough, although I was kind of nervous on the nose, it definitely tastes a lot like Heineken. You know, it's a little bit different, but the usual kind of malty crispness you get with a Heineken is definitely there. I also kind of know Heineken is one of the lagers that actually has a tiny bit of yeast flavor, and that's actually still coming through here as well. But yeah, it's still got that kind of corny, you know, adjunct sweetness that you would expect out of a big light lager like Heineken. I can definitely taste a difference though. There's no slight bite that you might get with a lager like Heineken. There's no astringency that you might taste from alcohol as well. So, and to be honest, I think that really makes the sweetness of the malt come out even more than I would otherwise expect from a traditional Heineken lager. But if you served me this and said it was a Heineken, I might have thought there was some sort of, you know, distributor error, or maybe this beer was kept in a warm car one day or something like that, but I probably wouldn't challenge you too hard that this was non-alcoholic. It actually tastes fairly good and a lot like a lot of other, you know, lighter lagers out there. And definitely looks the part too. Now the reason I went ahead and tasted Heineken 0.0 first is because they're one of the rising stars of the non-alcoholic beer brands here in the US. But despite this fact, non-alcoholic beers account for only 0.37% of the US beer industry. Heineken has made a big marketing push in 2019 with the launch of their 0.0 brand. They spent $50 million advertising this new beer in 2019, but unfortunately they only sold $26 million of beer, which is quite the loss because, you know, they spent $50 million on marketing and didn't even have to account for the cost of producing and distributing this beer. In my last video, I talked about the threats to craft beer, and one of them were more health-conscious consumers and more low-carb alternatives to beer out there. And I think that, you know, companies like Heineken, as well as a lot of craft brands, are trying to capitalize on this change in consumer taste and make sure that people don't leave beer forever, or at the very least, they might switch to some non-alcoholic beer if they're not ready to do that. But I feel like there's a little bit more to this puzzle. Here in the Western world, there is a growing market for bars that don't serve alcohol at all. Actually, cities across the country have seen a boom in bars serving only spirit-free drinks in the last 5 to 10 years. Everywhere from Portland to Denver, Minneapolis, Houston, New York, Philadelphia, Atlanta. All these places are fairly easy spots to find bars that don't actually serve any alcohol. But with the rise of mocktail bars and other dedicated spaces for non-alcoholic drinks, I think a beer like this Heineken Zero, or maybe the next one we're going to crack, would fit in just fine. So next up, I have Coors Non-Alcoholic. And I'm not super excited about this one. I haven't drank a lot of actual Coors. Drank a few Coors Lights, for sure, but yeah, I'm interested to see this. You know, it's weird how these non-alcoholic brands that the large brewers make try to capitalize on a lot of the same marketing strategies that their parent beers essentially did. So Heineken, you know, we already covered, still has the star, established in 1873, all that noise. And Coors is doing pretty much the same thing. A Rocky Mountain tradition since 1873, which I did not know that these two breweries were claiming the same year for their founding, which is something I learned just now filming this. Interesting. Again, they note that it's not beer. It's a non-alcoholic malt beverage officially on the label. One interesting thing I did find is that a lot of these non-alcoholic beers, actually the threshold is really just less than 0.5% of alcohol by volume, and not actually zero alcohol. So this particular beer is operating on that, contains less than 0.5% ABV alcohol by volume. So this is a 12-ounce bottle. No other special branding on here, just the Coors Mountains and the brewery name and the year it was established. So let's see how Coors Banquet translates to the non-alcoholic world. So it's pouring very strong, but it doesn't actually seem as carbonated as I would normally expect a Coors to be. But yeah, it is extremely light in color. Again, another tight white head. This one actually has some bigger bubbles and is producing way more carbonation inside my glass. So my guess is this one is going to taste a lot bubblier and spritzier on that end. Gosh, but I smell this, and I don't know. Like, it smells like water. Like, it smells like carbonated water. Like, there is really not much going on in here. And I actually know that when I drink like a Coors Light or something, I don't really expect there to be a lot of flavor going on. It's kind of like almost like an alcoholic tonic water. But I'm getting like even less than I normally would here. So yeah, I was definitely right about the hard carbonation. It is almost, it's so hard carbonated. It's almost like when you immediately crack a soda pop and drink it, and you just get that hard tingling sensation on your tongue. That is what I get drinking this beer, even after letting it, off gas for about 30 seconds or so. That initial white head we had is almost completely gone, which is kind of a shame. That's one of the things I do like when it comes to beer, is watching the head go down the glass. Yeah, it doesn't really taste much of anything. It tastes like a hard carbonated tonic water with a little bit of like sweet corn in the background. No hops to speak of whatsoever. I guess if you told me this was a malt beverage, I would believe you. If you said this was a Coors or a Coors Light, I would tell you were kidding me, because it is not even close on the flavor. Yeah, this one does not taste like beer at all. It doesn't smell like beer. Ugh. And frankly, it's just not very good. This particular brand of NA beer actually saw about a 5.8% decrease in sales over the past year. Of the 5 largest brands in the non-alcoholic beer space today, only Heineken Zero actually showed any positive growth. But as we noted earlier, it was still marketed to a loss due to a huge marketing budget. Other big brands like O'Doul's was down 7% in 2019. Old Milwaukee non-alcoholic was down a whopping 9% in 2019. But since the overall sales in 2019 were flat, that means someone had to be cannibalizing their market share of these other big brands. And the beers doing that are the new craft non-alcoholic beers. Speaking of which, I want to open one right now, because this one I have been very anxious to try. This one is called the Glutenberg. It is described as a millet and buckwheat beer. It is 0.1% alcohol by volume, which, again, classifies it in kind of that non-alcoholic range. Does come in a nice pint can. It is brewed and canned by the microbrasserie Glutenberg in Montreal, Canada, and it made its way down here to me in Minnesota, which I am very excited about. And it's imported via Massachusetts. Enough, this can actually has a nutritional label on it, which I'm not sure is a Canadian thing or not, but this beer, for a full pint of near beer, essentially, we have 59 calories and 12 grams of carbs, which is pretty dang low. So, if you're looking for a low-calorie alternative beer, hopefully this tastes good, but this might do it for you. So I pop open the can, and already I've got, the head of beer leaking out the top of the can, which I love to see. And, just like all our other brews, this one pours a lovely golden color. But yeah, getting a nice head of foam on here, and it just, again, looks a little more carbonated than I'd like, but I guess that's nothing crazy out of the ordinary for a lager or a light lager type beer. So let me take the aroma on this one. Okay, so I'm finally getting a little bit of earthiness and herbal sensations out of this brew. Yeah, so when they describe it as millet and buckwheat, there's not a lot of malt on the nose, but definitely get some sort of earthy grain. I guess I don't have the greatest palate or aroma for different grains out there, but you can definitely tell that this just isn't a fizzy malt drink. Somebody really took the time to kind of think through how they wanted the aroma to come out of this particular brew. Cheers. So while I get kind of an earthy herbal note on the aroma, the flavor is really all over the place. Yeah, you can definitely tell some sort of millet or other grain was used to make this beer, because it has sort of an astringent and sour flavor that hits you initially, but it kind of fades into this lovely little bouquet of earthy flavors and almost kind of hop aromas that work their way back up into your nose. And it's a very interesting brew for sure. You know, with kind of these herbal flavors, you'd almost expect the body to be a little bit bigger, but it still has that very nice light body to this beer. Yeah, it's just got me thinking. It's really trying to stump my palate, because it's just giving me a ton of different earth and pine tones. You know, not at all sweet, which is kind of a welcome change after these first two brews I tried. This beer really goes for a different kind of non-alcoholic or low-alcoholic style here. And I could see why brands like this are starting to cannibalize against these kind of, I don't want to say standard, but these other similar kind of corny, sweet brands. This is definitely something different. If you were a craft beer or craft beverage person looking to take a little break or from alcohol and that sort of thing, this is the kind of thing you would go out and try to find and pick up. And so, yeah, Glutenberg out of Montreal in Canada, really good stuff. Cheers. And before we get to our final brew, there were a couple more interesting things I learned about NA beer while doing research for this video. First, I think although NA beer is just a percent of the total US beer market, there is definitely a ton of examples of other markets in the world that have more significant presences for NA beer. In Germany, 6.5% of the beer market belongs to low or no alcohol beers. And in Spain, it's a whopping 12%. So a sustainable NA beer market is definitely possible. But I think it's important to remember that there are a ton of regulatory and cultural considerations between those two markets and the US market here that really, I think, allow NA beer to thrive. But then again, you know, if NA beers or craft NA beers are even able to capture 1 or 2% of the huge US beer market, that is millions of barrels and literally like 300 to 400% growth for this product category. So I definitely think there is a lot of room to grow in this marketplace for these low and no alcohol beers. And speaking of growth, I'm gonna try one more of these here today. Last, we have the Erdinger non-alcoholic malt beverage. This one does have Reinheitsgebot mentioned on the bottle, which is very interesting. That a non-alcoholic brew could consider itself brewed in the Reinheitsgebot tradition, but I suppose alcohol is not one of the ingredients listed there. So, Erdinger non-alcoholic is crafted all naturally using a traditional production method. Erdinger non-alcoholic is free from chemical additives or preservatives. Thank you for enjoying Germany's #1 malt beverage. So as I mentioned, Germany, 6.5% of their beer market is NA beer, and this is the brand leader right here. Which I thought was really interesting. I was kind of surprised to learn a country with as rich a brewing tradition as Germany actually really enjoyed consuming NA beer. But I guess that kind of makes sense, because if for whatever reason you loved beer and had to give it up due to the alcohol, you would definitely turn to, hopefully this is the next best thing, but I guess I will find out. Alright. So, let's see what it has to offer. Again, just like all our other brews, pouring a lovely golden color. And this one appears to have a lot of carbonation. And as I look at it now, it still is off-gassing, even here in the bottle. So I might have to give this a moment. But, yeah, again, another lovely, lovely pour of beer. On the nose... So on the nose, I'm still getting a lot of sweetness, but I'm definitely getting a ton of malt sweetness. It reminds me of brew days when I homebrew here, and you get that kind of molassesy, malty aroma percolating around the house. And that is what the exact same aroma I get out of beer, which I guess makes sense, because if it is a malt beverage that doesn't have a lot of alcohol in it yet, you know, it would smell the exact same as like malt extract you were boiling that doesn't have any alcohol in it yet. So, I'm going to see if I can get down around this head and into the beer. Cheers. Oh man. Yeah, so... You know, of all of them that I've tried today, this one is by far the maltiest in flavor. Yeah, it really tastes like someone took some malt extract and carbonated it and somehow got it to pour just like a regular German lager and served it to me in this bottle here. There's maybe just a tiny hint of kind of that German hop bitterness, but it cannot compete with the big malt flavor that is going on in this brew. And the more I drink it, the more I actually really like it, and I can see why this particular beer might be the top of the NA beers in Germany. So, after trying 4 different NA beers here today, I'm kind of excited to see where this category goes, and if craft brewers really continue to push the envelope by bringing new flavors that haven't really been in non-alcoholic or low-alcohol beers in the past. This industry, especially here in the US, I think has a ton of room for growth, whether it's more groups in the country deciding not to drink alcohol, or the increasing health consciousness of our consumers here in the US. I think that NA beer is going to be around to stay, and I, for one, am excited to see what our brewers come up with. Cheers, beer nerds!
Hey guys! My turn! So which of these should I try? Ryan, I don't remember what they were. Erdinger? I think this is Erdinger. Tastes like if I ever gave in to my base urges and licked the malt extract jug. What do you got here? Alright, we'll go in order of decreasing Ryan enjoyment. So, Glutenberg. Smells like raw millet, so at least they're pretty honest on that point. Ooh. That has got a funk tart level that I'm not sure is enjoyable in any... You know, maybe if you told me it was a sour, I'd be cool with it. Little rhubarb. We can figure this out. Stir with a metal straw, as one does. Okay, y'all, as it turns out, Glutenberg has just been missing a market segment here. That's not a lager, that's a sour waiting to happen. So Ryan seemed not thrilled about that Coors. I don't want to go there. I like Heineken. Heineken's good. It's my favorite glass, too, so that's... Oh no! No! Ryan, that didn't smell a little skunky. That smells like a skunk. Okay, maybe. No, it also tastes like a skunk happened in the glass. It's not getting better. It's not getting better. Because Coors was like water, right? It should help. Ugh. Well, it's not good, but at least it's not offensive. You know what? I think the rhubarb juice out of the bottle is the best thing on the table with this. I'm done with this.